Yeah, good morning, everyone. So, as Nora mentioned, my name is Reino Jubair. I am a senior systems engineer at Veeam. And just very quickly, Nora, or someone from a confirmation point of view, can you see my screen, my slide deck?
Yes, please, we do.
All right, perfect. All right, so as a starting point, just to touch on the agenda for today, obviously. There is a lot more content to this agenda than just filling it up from these bullet points. But we're going to be talking about the overview of the Veeam Data Platform. We'll talk about some of the key capabilities, the core capabilities of the Veeam Data Platform. We'll go through some demonstrations, how you can protect your workloads, and also understand how you can protect your workload against ransomware and cyber threats. I mean, this is the most common cause of outages these days. So it's helping you as a customer understand that, yes, there will be ransomware attacks, but how quickly can you recover in an event of a ransomware attack? How quickly can you be up and running when there's a ransomware attack? And then also we'll talk about proactive monitoring, reporting, and then also go through a demo. We'll set up some basic, configure some jobs, show you how the Veeam console looks like, what's new in version 13 as well, and many more. So as a starting point, just to an introductory to cyber threats, and we've since COVID, we've seen a massive spike when it comes to ransomware attacks. So I mean, it's 6 years on now. It feels like COVID was yesterday, but the complexities are still there. The reality is still there. So we see data. We notice data grows every single day, and from the reports we're pulling, most customers are growing 20% annually. There's a lot of infrastructure complexities. We find that a lot of customers are moving from various hypervisors. They might be VMware today, but then they want to move to off VMware to a different hypervisor. It could be Proxmox, it could be Nutanix AHV, it could be HPE Morpheus, for argument's sake. And then when we look at the attacks, the threats happening is 69% of businesses do suffer at least one attack, or they've had one attack. And that's a phenomenal rate. And then also 1 in 4 organizations, 27% of organizations who have paid ransomware fees never got the data back. So, and that's quite alarming as well. So for you as a customer, it's understanding these realities, and then also how can Veeam help you with these challenges going forward. And again, talking about those challenges, whether it's from a compliance point of view, you need to test your workloads, make sure they're recoverable, to making sure that they're immutable and air-gapped, to aligning with security. What can the security team bring to the table? What can Veeam, for that matter, bring to the table for the security team and the integrations into various security vendors? And then also having that visibility that if you do have workloads that's backed up, how does Veeam help you identify which workloads or restore points have got malware in them or ransomware nodes, for argument's sake? And then also that complexity around moving your workloads from one hypervisor to another, maybe from on-prem to the cloud, maybe to Azure virtual machine, or maybe back again to VMware, etc. So just a little bit of background, and most of the or some of you on the call will know Veeam. For those of you that don't know Veeam, just a little bit of history. I'm not going to go through everything. You can find all of this information on our websites, but understand that we were founded in 2006, so we've been around for 20 years now. So this is our 20-year anniversary. We headquartered in Seattle, Washington. We operate in over 180 countries. We've got offices in 35. One of those offices are here in South Africa, where I'm based. But from a team perspective, We cover the whole of Africa, East and West Africa. So Ghana being specific, Nigeria, West African countries. We do travel a lot in these countries. So hopefully I can meet one of you in person one of these days. We have over 550,000 customers worldwide, and that's a phenomenal landmark for us as well. And understand, even Nora mentioned the M365 environment. We have over 23.5 million users using our Veeam Data Cloud or our on-premise Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365 to protect their workloads. Okay, so let's talk about the Veeam Data Platform and what are we going to do today, and making sure that you can understand what Veeam will bring to the table from a data resiliency strategy point of view. So we're going to be touching on the power around how we do backups, but more importantly, how we do recovery of those workloads, making sure that you've got threat detection using our threat hunter, using our reports, our data analytics, using AI to understand what's happening in your environment, to recovery orchestrator, data sovereignty, making sure that from a compliance point of view, your data is recoverable. Your data is in the right storage in the right region. And then obviously, as I mentioned, the AI Power Insights, you can ask natural language questions around your environment, around your Veeam environment, around your backup jobs, understand what's failed, what's passed, which workloads aren't protected, etc., etc. So just to touch on the Veeam Data Platform, now, from a workload perspective, Veeam basically can back up anything, whether it's going to be cloud workloads, so Azure virtual machines, to EC2 instances in AWS, to containerized workloads, so Kubernetes. If you are running containerized workloads in Red Hat OpenShift or VMware Tanzu, we can back up those workloads. To virtual environments, so from VMware to Nutanix to Proxmox to various KVM hypervisors out there. Morpheus, HPE Morpheus will be added it's in beta testing at the moment. That's going to be added soon. To physical workloads, whether you're a bank and you're running AIX and you've got Oracle databases running on it, to Windows and Linux servers and backing up of SQL databases and Postgres databases, etc. To unstructured data, whether this is NAS or file storage or object storage. And then obviously from a Veeam storage as a service component, we've got the Veeam Vault, which gives you the ability to offload in a Veeam Vault location, which is based on Azure storage, but it's your secondary copy that you can store off-site if you so choose at a phenomenal price per terabyte. But then let's go back to the Veeam Data Platform and just key areas we're going to be touching on. So we're going to be touching on how can we reduce that operational friction. So talking about making sure we can do secure backups, and also how do we use Sure Backup to validate our backups are recoverable. And then from a security perspective, making sure your environment is hardened, following the DISA stick rules, making sure you've got a zero trust architecture, making sure your environment is set up and hardened to such a way that it is literally, attackers need to be in front of a machine to destroy the data. And then lastly, from a freedom perspective, that vendor lock-in. Veeam is storage agnostic, and you'll see it throughout the slides that we have got best practice guides for various vendors, whether it's going to be Dell or HPE or Nutanix, you name it, Pure Storage. We have got best practice guides, and we want you to reuse your storage that you have in your environment. Okay, so let's just quickly touch on and just a little bit deeper when we talk about that securing our backups. So first and foremost, Veeam has launched in version 13 a software appliance with just enough OS, meaning it's pre-configured, it's pre-built. All you have to do is set up your security components in terms of who's the administrator with a password, your security officer with a password, setting up that environment, but understand that you can deploy this software appliance as a virtual machine, as a physical server. It's built on Linux, not Windows anymore. So in the past, Veeam ran on Windows only. Now we're all moving to Linux. And don't be scared if you hear the word Linux and you're a Windows operator. We have made it so simple in the UI for you to set up this appliance. Quite easy. It's straightforward. It's going to do updates automatically. There's automated patch management. We're in charge of the OS. We'll send down patches for the OS. So no longer do you need to log a support call and then it's a Windows support call or a Veeam support call. Everything gets done through Veeam. The OS, the appliance support, everything is done by Veeam. And then also making sure that you've got automated audit reports, making sure that you're following the Veeam best practices, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. So we, from an appliance perspective, are going to give you that freedom and that flexibility to easily set up a secure environment that's robust and cyber resilient. So talking about the security posture, we're following the DZSTIC rules. It's going to be zero-touch security updates. You have the ability also to use a hardened Linux repository. Now, what does that mean? It's taking a physical server, it could be any brand, with internal disks, and installing Veeam's hardened Linux repository ISO on it. We will lock it down. We'll help you make sure you have got a hardware device that's following the best practices from a security perspective, but also now you've got immutable backups. So again, from a compliance point of view, making sure you're adhering to the compliance component of having it immutable, having it encrypted. We'll touch a little bit later down about the inline scanning and the Yara detection. And Yara threat detection is purely looking at files that are, for an example, ransomware notes. So during the workloads we protect, can we find any ransomware notes that's left as traces that obviously there's an imminent attack going to happen, and it helps you identify the possible workloads that's been breached. We'll talk about SAML role-based access. That's going to be key for you guys when you set up the environment. Understand with version 13, you can go very granular in terms of who can do what, who can back up, who can restore, who can change components, configuration settings. And then the recon scanner, reconnaissance scanner, having that ability to proactively monitor the Veeam estate for any anomalies, any brute force attacks, any passwords being changed, any immutable settings being changed, etc., etc. Okay, and then as I mentioned, from a vendor lock-in perspective, you as a customer have the freedom to not only choose the hypervisor that you want Veeam to back up and migrate from one hypervisor to another hypervisor, but also what hardware do you want to use? What repositories do you want to use? Do you want to use a data domain? Do you want to use an HP Store once, a Pure Storage? From a Veeam perspective, we are going to give you that flexibility and that freedom to choose existing hardware, or in future choose different hardware where you want to use as repositories. And then from a universal licensing point of view, understand also that you'll have that flexibility in terms of licensing whether you're backing up a virtual machine, a laptop, a Azure virtual machine in the cloud, etc., etc. Now, just from a data backup perspective, we spoke about some key areas. As I mentioned, everybody can do backups, but when it comes to restores, what options do you have? And one key component as well for us when it comes to backups is Sure Backup. making sure that you can verify that the workloads you're protecting are recoverable. So how do we do that? When we do a backup of a virtual machine and we send that backup to a storage repository of your choice, we are going to be doing inline scanning. So we're looking for viruses. We use entropy analysis to scan for suspicious files or encrypted files within those workloads. Once we've done that, we are then going to give you that ability to also use on-demand scanning, meaning you can scan in an isolated environment those workloads as well. Now, Sure Backup is going to give you that flexibility to say, I need to have a report that states this workload, this virtual machine I'm backing up is recoverable. The OS is started. There is a heartbeat. It sees the network. If I've got a SQL database running on it, that database is running. And I need a report that I can give from a compliance perspective on a monthly basis. It's automated. You schedule a Sure Backup job only once, and you can have these reports on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, that gives you a detailed explanation of the workloads that you're protecting. Are they recoverable? Maybe there's a network issue, network port issue, or maybe the OS is not working. Then you can use that information and still mount that backup and go fix a specific workload that's maybe not working and do a backup. So when it comes to restoring, we do not want you to restore any workloads back to production that's maybe infected. So you have that ability to use either the Veeam Threat Hunter, which is our AV. We use that as a second pair of eyes to scan these workloads to help you identify potential malicious files. Or you can use your own AV as well. And we'll touch on the secure restore part for that as well. But understand that during the restore process, if Veeam finds any anomalies, if we find any suspicious files, you've got the option to say disconnect that, complete the restore, but disconnect the machine from the network so that it doesn't infect my environment, or completely stop the restore process because you found a malicious file. We do not want this back in our production environment. Okay, so when it comes to data recovery, now this is the key part that I mentioned also about, yes, we can restore at a granular level, files, folders, virtual machines, etc., but also understand that you as a customer will have the flexibility to restore somewhere else, and we'll touch about that. But let's look at these restore options. So first and foremost, when we talk about replication, we can replicate a virtual machine in VMware and Hyper-V from production to DR to co-locations. You can use CDP for VMware if you need to replicate workloads in seconds. You can recover from storage snapshots. So having that ability to use your existing storage that's taking snapshots. So on your SAN, it could be a Dell, it could be a Pure Storage, it could be HP, it doesn't matter the brand. There will be storage integration. You can have a look on our website for the supported storage integrations we have with the vendors, but you can recover from a snapshot. You can do instant recovery from a snapshot. You can restore a virtual machine from snapshots, etc. Then backing up those physical servers, whether it's AIX, whether it's Oracle Solaris, whether it's virtual machines, whether it's Windows servers, Linux servers, and then restoring them as something else. You've got the flexibility. And instant recovery just means when we back up a machine that's, for argument's sake, 1 terabyte in size, we need to be able to recover very quickly. We do not want to wait 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours for a machine to be restored. Instant recovery means virtual machine that we've backed up in VMware and Hyper-V, we can instantly mount that backup back onto the host, the ESXi host. We can spin up that VM, have it up and running within seconds to a couple of minutes, depending on that size, but then do the restore process in the background. So the restore might still take 3 hours, 4 hours, but users have got access to the systems. The machines are up and running, and the restore process happens in the background. So any new Delta information that gets logged onto these VMs that's spun up, when we complete the restore process right at the end, we are going to merge the Delta information with the restored data, and then you will have a fully operational machine recovered. But the key is that users have been working in the meantime while the restore process was happening. All right, so portability, the freedom to recover anywhere, from anywhere to anywhere. And this is a very busy slide, but it's going to get a lot busier throughout the year. And the reason for that is we've got a universal API, hypervisor API that we've launched, where in the past year we've seen a trend where a lot of customers have asked for different alternatives to VMware, purely from a costing point of view. Now, as a customer, you will have the flexibility to back up a machine in VMware, and you can restore it as a Hyper-V machine, or you can restore it as a Proxmox machine, or Scale Computing, or the next list coming is HPE Morpheus, or Platform 9, for argument's sake, which is also in beta testing. So from a Veeam perspective, if you look at these green dots, it's very busy, but on the left-hand side, from VMware, if you have, let's call it, you're running Oracle Linux KVM, and you're backing up that KVM, you want to restore it as a Proxmox machine, you can do that. You want to restore it as an Azure machine, you can do that. You can take a physical server and restore it as a virtual machine in VMware and Hyper-V, etc., etc. So understand the flexibility that you have. You are not limited to your hypervisor that you're backing up today. From a Veeam perspective, and this is the key, whatever you're backing up today, you can restore as something else tomorrow. And that's the flexibility that you will have as a customer. When we talk about data security, understand the key pillars, the zero trust architecture. We've got some documentation on that. It's segmenting your data, your environments, from production to the storage to the software, following Veeam's 3211 rules, making sure your data is immutable, and using the threat hunter to scan for viruses. So keep that in mind. Now, the tools we're going to be using, that's part of the Veeam, and we'll talk about the licensing a bit later, but understand the capabilities you have. Before the backups, so before we do a backup, what options do you have? First and foremost, Veeam Incident API, meaning this is an integration into XDR, MDRs, like Sophos and Palo Alto and CrowdStrike components. It gives the security team the ability to do a quick backup of a virtual machine that's under threat or being attacked. It's an API call that the security team can release to say, please, we've got a virtual machine that's being attacked, do a quick backup, and Veeam will do a quick backup to save as much data. We'll talk about the recon scanner a bit later, but understand there's a lot of analytics, observability, as well as the security and compliance analyzer, making sure you adhere to the best practices of Veeam. So during backups, we are going to be doing inline malware detection. We are going to be looking for file system activity analysis. So we're looking for anomalies within the environment. We're looking for encrypted data but in your environment. We'll use indicator of compromise tools to scan for various tools that could be used for data exfiltration. And then lastly, from a recovery point of view, I spoke about secure restore, but understand you can use the threat hunter, make sure you're recovering back to production without any viruses. You can use YARA rules to find specific files like a ransomware note. And then the incident response component from Veeam by Coveware is a Veeam retainer for if you as a customer, you could be a bank, you could be a financial institution, you would want a retainer by Veeam to help in an event of a ransomware attack to analyze and help and decrypt the data to give you documentation how the attack happened, to help you recover your data, and even if need be, negotiate on your behalf with the threat actors. Okay. So the ecosystem, just to very briefly, it is busy, but understand you as a customer will have the ability to send all the Veeam information via Seams tools, via syslog, to Seams tools like Sophos and Splunk and Palo Alto. Fortinet will come along. There's a lot of security vendors we're going to be adding to the list, but understand any Seams tools that you could be using, as long as there's a syslog server, we can send the Veeam data. So your security team will always be informed what's happening in Veeam. From a mutability, understand the backups, whether we're doing immutable snapshots, whether we're doing immutable backups or immutable backup copies. This is just a small list of vendors. Please go on our website. There's hundreds of vendors that we integrate with. It's just purely the slide would be too busy, and you're going to see half the logos if we had to put everybody on there. But understand that you have the flexibility to store your backups in immutable copies in your environment. Okay, so let's talk about some key features. So one of them is the advanced anomaly detection. So what are we doing? During the backups, we are going to be looking for data that's encrypted. So today we do a backup, tomorrow we do a backup of that same machine, it's an incremental backup, but we find there are some folders, there's some files that's suddenly been encrypted, or there's mass deletion of data. We are going to flag this, and we're going to let you, give you the ability to go and investigate. The reconnaissance scanner, this is a very key component for the security team. This monitors the real estate of Veeam for any brute force attacks, for any passwords being changed, for any mutability settings being changed. We follow the meta attack framework. So we look at our estate, the Veeam estate, and we're going to say, we can see someone is trying to access the machine. They're trying to do brute force attacks. They're changing passwords. They're changing immutability settings. They're trying to delete the backups. They are elevating themselves. So they were a restore operator. Now they've changed themselves to a backup administrator. All these, all this information gets triaged. We give you timelines. You and your security team will have the ability to see what's happening in Veeam. Now, the key behind this is understand that as a backup vendor, we are the #1 component that gets attacked first. If the threat actors and the ransomware attackers can access the backup environment, they can encrypt your backups, they can delete your backups, they can lock you out of your environment, then they've got full control, because then they can go off to your production environment and encrypt your production environment, because they know you cannot recover them. And that's where Veeam comes into play. We're making sure our systems, our environment, the Veeam environment is secure, but also you have the ability and you'll have visually the information to see what is happening in this environment as well. Your security team will have information to see what's happening in the environment. Another key scanner that we've added is the indicator of compromised tools. Now, this is purely for data exfiltration tools. So think of any exfiltration tool that can be used in your environment to take data out of your environment that can be used against you as a company. We will scan the virtual machines we're backing up for any possible tools, and there's a whole list of these tools that could be installed without you even knowing that these tools are installed on a specific machine to be used to extract the data. So indicators of compromise is a very, very key component to be used. Okay, then from a signature-based scanning, you could either use the Veeam Threat Hunter or you can use your own antivirus, understand the Veeam Threat Hunter is that second pair of eyes. We do not want you to stop using your own antivirus software. We're not an antivirus company. We are a backup vendor, but we are there to assist and help in this fight against ransomware attacks. So as a data protection company, we will give you the flexibility to use your own AV tools or leverage also the Veeam tools during the backups. As I mentioned, the Threat Hunter, you can use this as that second pair of eyes. So after the backups have been done, we will also scan those workloads. And if we find anything, we will flag those restore points and the security team can investigate, because maybe your AV is the definitions are outdated, whatever it could be. If we pick it up and you pick it up, then you know it's a positive, and you know which restore points are infected as well. Okay. So when we talk about YARA, just to understand what YARA rules are all about. Now, YARA rules are used to scan for ransomware nodes. That you can write a script, and it's going to scan a specific machine for keywords. It could be Bitcoin, it could be a ransomware attack, it could be pay the money, whatever the case may be. Any document, PHP file, text file, doesn't matter, that possibly is left on a machine because the ransomware attacker wants to make contact with you at some stage when they attack you. They're going to release that file. This is what we're scanning. Now, also, when it comes to encryption and how things work, is once the data gets encrypted, the key behind Veeam is that we are going to flag those backups as encrypted. We will give you the ability to go back and use a clean restore point. So from a visual point of view, you can choose, find me the last clean restore point in my backups. But then also understand day 7, 8, and 9, those backups can be reused again. Yes, they might be infected, but you can use Sure Backup to restore those workloads in an isolated environment, ring-fenced environment, away from production, that the security team and you can go and clean up the data and then copy the data out. So there's always ways that you can reuse your backups, but for us, it's to help you identify which restore points are malicious and understand you don't want that back into production. Just from a security point of view, we follow the NIST framework. We've got a lot of security certifications. We work with the Department of Defense in the States. Understand that from a Veeam perspective, we're not just a backup vendor that just wants to protect your backups. We want to make sure that all security protocols are in place to eliminate the threat of attackers. We know there will always be ransomware attacks, but we want you to make sure that you can recover in an event of a ransomware attack. Okay, we talk about Veeam 1, the monitoring reporting part. Also understand that it's all about analytics. It's all about understanding your environment, giving you insights into your environment, helping you with capacity planning, helping you pull reports from a compliance point of view. We want to make sure that when you go into Veeam 1 from a monitoring point of view, you can see your security posture, you can see the available threats, you can the active threats, you can see which backups have failed, you can look at pulling reports in terms of which jobs have failed, which jobs have passed, how much storage is left, how many days do I have left from a capacity planning point of view before I run out of storage, give you insights into your VMware and Hyper-V environments, having ransomware monitoring alerts that helps you in an event of a ransomware attack. We will monitor your Hyper-V estate, your VMware environment. We scan, we've got proactive alerts that can help you in this event. And then from an analytics point of view, I mentioned the reports, but also you'll have AI. You can ask machine learning questions. We can ask natural language questions. You'll have over 100 reports at your fingertips. You can also customize some reports even. So reporting is key. It's not just a reactive component, but there is the proactive monitoring side to Veeam 1 as well as the recon scanner that I mentioned in the past. Okay, so just some of the best practices now, because today was also all about kind of like a workshop. The information, Veeam has done a really phenomenal job in providing t-shirt size blueprints for customers' environments. Now remember, every customer is different, every size is different. Some customers have got 50 VMs, some customers have got 5,000 virtual machines. We want to help you architect your environment correctly, make sure that you don't get frustrated because your backups are slow or components are failing, because at the end of the day, Veeam is a software company. And we are reliant on the underlying network. We are reliant on the underlying storage, the SANs. So we've got best practices. We'll help you architect your environment, and we want to make sure that you meet your RTOs. We want to make sure you meet your RPOs. So there are blueprints, security blueprints that can help you design your environment. We, as system engineers at Veeam, can also help you architect your environment, but understand that this is readily available. We can give you the sites. I'll show you some links to it. Quite easy. It helps you as a customer to guide you in terms of what resources do you need. Because at the end of the day, we are reliant on the resources: CPU, memory, network, storage. The faster these components are, the faster we can push through the backups. We compress our backups, we dedupe our backups, but we need resources for that. Okay. Additionally, we've got Veeam calculators. So this helps you architect your environment. You can calculate the capacity. So if these blueprints being guidelines, if you want something more specific, you can use a Veeam calculator. We have got a phenomenal set of resources out there, from the help center guides, the user guides. These are your manuals. These are your go-to. How do I create a backup job? How do I create a replication job? How do I set up snapshots? Whatever the case may be. We've got cookbooks to help you, best practices guides. We've got KB articles from a security perspective, from a how-to perspective, and then obviously our community. We've got a phenomenal community, whether it's our partners, our own customers adding to the community, blogs. They'll ask certain questions. Maybe they've got some challenges, and the community will answer these as well. And then obviously you've got support, right? At the end of the day, you can always log a support ticket for any challenges you might face. So then, just from a licensing point of view, before we go into the demo, is also understand that depending on the license you choose, whether foundation, whether it's advanced, whether it's premium, there's a set of key components that the features you'll have. The purple block in the middle, that is where the majority of the customers should be, the type of licenses. Because what you want is, you want to be able to do your backups, but you also want to detect and identify threats. You want security observation. You want AI built-in, AI insights to help you in environment. So that middle row is the sweet point. We've got some of our enterprise customers sitting in premium, but the majority definitely should start in the middle with advanced, because you want monitoring, you want observation, you want to have reports and the security components. And effectively, at a later stage, you can always upgrade to premium as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. At Veeam Universal Advanced licenses, the advanced part is the key for you guys. That's where you want to be. All right, so with that, I am going to stop the presentation and we are going to go into the demo. As mentioned, if there's any questions, we will post them in the chat, and then the team will monitor them for me as well. So as a starting point, let's just go into the Veeam Backup and Replication components as well. So I've opened up the backup console. Now understand, there is a web console as well. I will show you that as well. But what I want to do is in my demo lab, this is a very comprehensive console for me. I've got everything, all the visibility I need. So I'm going to use this for today. But understand, you as a customer can use a web console and do the same. Now, from a backup perspective, you'll see that when we do backups, we are going to create a backup job. And a backup job could be for a virtual machine, could be vSphere, Cloud Director, it could be for Hyper-V, Nutanix, Proxmox, as I mentioned, or any other workloads. Physical Windows servers, Linux computers, MacBooks, AIX, when we need to do backups of databases, Oracle RMAN, SAP HANA, SQL databases, MongoDB, Postgres databases, etc. Okay, or we need to back up Entra ID for argument's sake, or file shares, etc. Okay, NAS. Yeah. When we do a backup, very straightforward. I'll show you an example of a VMware one. So let's say I want to back up a SQL virtual machine, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to scan. I'm going to connect. I'll be connected to my cluster. I'll be able to see the hosts. I'll be able to see the virtual machines, and I'll be able to do a backup. Okay. So understand that when we do backups, you will be able to see every site, every host, every cluster, every workload, every machine that you have. Okay. And ultimately, we can then select a machine. And so let's say I take this NSX test as an example. You're going to select your storage and how many days do you want to keep your backups. Understand the archiving, GFS, is available. So if you need to keep backups from a compliance point of view for 7 years or 10 years because you're a financial institution, you can keep your backups for 7 years. You can keep monthly backups. You can keep weekly backups according to compliance. Those are all available. Okay. And you've got the ability to obviously offload to a secondary destination. Maybe you need to send to tape. You can send to tape as well. Then from a application web processing, if we're backing up virtual machines with SQL databases, we will enable application web processing. If that machine has got a SQL database on it, we will be able to truncate the backups. We'll be able to back up the logs. If it's an Oracle machine or Postgres, we can include that as well. Okay, but there is an RMAN tool for Oracle for the DBAs to use natively RMAN RMAN through Veeam instead of just using application web processing. And then lastly, sorry, I just see there was a question, is application backup available in all Veeam versions? Yes, it is. Foundation should still, which is the lowest, you still will be able to do application web processing. So you can back up a SQL database with Foundation. Only the security tools will be limited. But what I'll do is there is a comparison guide. I'll put in the link at the end of the call for everybody to use as well. So it's just going to make it easier. Then you'll be able to see the comparison. But to answer your question, yes. Application web processing for SQL databases will be there. It's only once you start hitting RMAN, if you need plugins. So a plugin for SQL databases, a plugin for Oracle RMAN, that is when you would need advanced. But I can just double check that for you as well a bit later on. And then just schedule your backups. Literally, once you've done your backup, you can, well, your settings, you can schedule it. So do I need to back it up every day at 10 o'clock? Do I need to back it up every hour? Do I need to back it up after a certain job has completed? Yeah. Now, it can get very granular as well, where if you need it, you'll see I've got advanced job settings just to go through this. Maybe there's some pre and post scripts that I need to run. Veeam can execute scripts on your behalf before a job runs and after a job's completed. So you can also add scripts in there as well. And that's it. That's the backup job for VMware. Same applies for Hyper-V, same applies for Nutanix, physical servers. If you're running a physical server, we're going to be using protection jobs, protection groups. We'll deploy an agent, but we deploy it centrally. Everything gets deployed centrally from the console. The only components that, as the current version stands, doesn't get deployed centrally is AIX. AIX, we still have to deploy it manually, but it gets controlled centrally. There will be in the next coming versions, we'll be able to do that centrally, the deployment of the AIX agent, but understand as of today, it's still central, it's still manual installation, but everything still gets managed through the console. Okay. Now, if we've done a backup, we've run a backup. The key behind Veeam is understand you will be able to see all of the information. So if I open up a machine, just as an example, you will be able to see step by step what Veeam is doing. So we could either see everything in this way. So we can see we're creating a snapshot, we're saving the disks, we are using a specific proxy, we're removing the snapshot, we're using inline malware detection to scan for those viruses, blah, blah, blah. So if there's any issues, we will see it here. We will also see what is our bottleneck. So bottleneck will be here. It's the source. So this could be a ESXi host. Maybe there's not enough memory. Maybe it's the network. Maybe it's our storage. Veeam will help you indicate where your troubles are coming from. You can see we've processed 290 gigs, but we've only backed up 19 gigs. So again, coming back to the compression, the dedupe, etc. You can see the transfer speed, how quickly are we backing up, etc., etc. Yeah. As I mentioned, the key when it comes to, once we've done a backup, what flexibility do we have when it comes to a restore? So first and foremost, I've got a VMware domain controller that I've backed up. You can see there's 3 restore points. Now, if I wanted to do a restore, I can use instant recovery. Now, remember, instant recovery means within minutes, this backup will be mounted on the host. The virtual machine will be up and running. You can access that machine. It's up and running for you to use while the restore happens in the background. That's what instant recovery does. You have to commit the restore at the end. So we publish the backup once it's done, once the restore is done, so the Delta information can be synchronized with the restore information, and then you're going to have a fully operational machine at the end. But you do not have to wait hours for this. But the key is, again, flexibility, right? I can restore back to VMware, but I can also restore to Hyper-V or Nutanix instantly. If I wanted to, I could restore this entire machine back to Proxmox or Scale Computing or any other. If I had Oracle Linux KVM, like I showed earlier on, maybe obviously this is the main controller, not a good idea, but gives you an idea. We can send this to Azure, we can send this to Google Cloud, but maybe I just need to restore some files, so I can restore files and folders. Or maybe I need to restore Active Directory objects. I can restore that as well. Yeah. So understand those components, the flexibility you're going to have. What you will see is one of these machines have got a little red bug. Now, it might be maybe small on your side. It's purely, obviously it's being shared, but you'll see there's a little red bug there. That means this machine is infected. And we need to understand why is it infected. So if I go to the properties of this backup job and I select that machine, it will show me, if I scroll all the way to the top, that it's infected. So I can see all my restore points. I can see they are full backups. You can see the disk size was 100 gigs. We only backed up 19 gigs. So we've got a dedupe of 5.2. This is software deduplication. This is not hardware dedupe. But now maybe we need to understand where these viruses are coming from as well. So what we can do is we can go to our inventory and we'll see that malware detection will be there for that machine. So we can either go to the history, and we can ask Veeam to show us the history of this machine and tell me what's going on. So if I right click on it, I can look at the details and I can see that my Windows Defender that was used picked up, because remember, during the process, we can either use our threat hunter or we can use maybe Windows Defender or some AV tool that's supported to help us identify some infection. And then the security team can go have a look. Okay, so that's the key, guys. When you do backups, you've got flexibility when it comes to restores. You'll have visibility if a specific component is infected, and also those restore options that I mentioned. Okay. Now, another key component is if we just, again, coming back to those backup repositories. As I mentioned, Veeam is storage agnostic. We've got a lot of integration. So if you see, if I say add repository, I can add direct attached, which means I can add a physical Windows server. I can add a hardened Linux repository as a storage repository. I can add SMB shares, NFS shares as my backup repositories. I can add deduplicating appliances like a Dell Data Domain or Exogrid, HP Store Ones or Infinidat. And object storage. Maybe I want to store my backups in the cloud. Maybe I'm going to use a hyperscaler like Azure or AWS or GCP to store my backups. Understand the flexibility that you as a customer will have when it comes to the storage locations. Or you might want to use Veeam Data Cloud Vault. This is our storage software storage as a service by Vault, by Veeam. It's managed by Veeam. We manage the whole infrastructure from a storage perspective for you. It's on Azure, so it will be in an Azure location of your choice. But it's managed by Veeam. So we've taken away all that headache for you to make sure security is in place, make sure the storage is in place, etc. You pay as you go. It's a subscription model for storage. Okay, so those options are there. What do you do when a backup is infected with a virus? Okay, good question, Stephen. So from a Veeam point of view, understand two things. We are going to help you identify a restore point that's infected. So you've got two options. One is if we look at this machine and we see that this backup is infected, we can then either restore it to a host where we say, okay, it could be a test host as an example, where we disconnect the machine from the network completely. That's one option. And then your security team can go and clean that machine, and then we can do another backup of that machine, and then we do a restore. Or you can use Sure Backup. So what is Sure Backup? Sure Backup is when we need an isolated environment where we've got a host, where we can spin up Veeam, this machine that's infected, but we want it to be isolated from production. We don't want the same IP addresses, the same network, mask, anything like that. It's just got to be a ring fence, isolated from production, but I need to get the contents of that machine. So what you can do is you can run a Sure Backup job that will help you identify, and just to show you what the Sure Backup does is, let's just go back here. Sorry, let me just minimize this again. When we do a Sure Backup job, we will we will power it on. So just to give you an idea, we can power it on. We can connect it to the machine. You've got access to the machine, but it's ring fenced and it's completely isolated from production. Okay, so two options. Sure backup, spin up the machine, have it in an isolated environment, clean the infected area, and then copy the data out that you need. Or let Veeam restore it to a host where we disconnect it from the network, you guys clean it, etc. From a Veeam perspective, we cannot go and clean the machines ourselves because it's your data, right? We do not know what needs to be done. We are going to give you the tools to say, okay, this machine's infected, spin it up, we will go clean it, we'll take a new backup, and then we keep that backup. Okay, so that's where Sure Backup comes into play. And that's going to help you from that point. So hopefully that's answered your question. All right, so that's the easy stuff. Now, understand you've got Veeam Intelligence. So Veeam Intelligence, you can ask questions, right? I'm not going to do that now purely because of time. You can ask it, how do I create a replication job in VMware? How do I create a job in a Sure Backup job that I explained now? How does this work? Help me set up a Sure Backup job. So you can use Veeam Intelligence and say, help me to configure a Sure Backup job, and it's going to tell you how to do it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm not going to run it now purely because of time, but I want to get to the monitoring side and the analytics side because this is very important as well. So if I log into the Veeam 1, let me just do this. Because this is, so we've done our jobs, but now we need to understand what vulnerabilities we have. Okay. So first and foremost, the threat center. This is where you as a customer will have access to see how is my security compliance? How well are we doing from a security perspective? And we can see I've got 63 out of 178 best practices are not in compliance. So I need to go fix that. So I can run a report and it's going to tell me what I need to go fix. Same as my data recovery, it will tell me my infections, my immutability, and then we can look at our RPO anomalies. We can look at from a compliance point of view. So if we in Ghana on a map, maybe we had multiple sites, we can log in and we could obviously add more. We can see all our sites with our backups. Okay. Now, two things. You see here where it says threats. This is going to show me my high, my low, my medium threats. Okay. Now this is from a security perspective where it becomes very important for you guys to understand what is happening in Veeam. Who's attacking my Veeam environment? Which threat actors are there? So if I click on triage, just to open this up, I am quickly gonna just log in for you. Let's see what the password is. Okay. So what we do is we are going to triage all of the information into a portal where we look at all of the services that's on the machine. We look at if there's any ports being opened. Let me just get that 226. What was the 950? We are going to look at if any passwords have changed, any users have been elevated, whatever the case may be. We are taking your Veeam environment and giving you a timeline to say, you have got critical threats, you have got medium, high risks. So you'll see one could be, there's 10 failed logins. There's been a brute force attack. So we take all of our logs, all of our information, we triage it against the meter attack framework. And we're going to help you to identify what's happening in your Veeam environment. Maybe there's a suspicious PowerShell event. Someone has put in a PowerShell plugin, and maybe there's a script that's going to be executed, whatever the case is. Okay, so you guys can see, and just purely from a time point of view, I'm just trying to save time, but we are going to look at everything from network discovery to file and directory discovery to account manipulation, to brute force attacks, to data destruction, to network denial of service attacks. Whatever the case is, you will see all of these events. Your security team will see all of these events, and you guys can go and investigate and see who's attacking a Veeam proxy, who's attacking maybe your hardened repository, or maybe they're trying to enter it. So you and the security team will have timelines. You'll see all of the events in your Veeam environment. And this is important, right? Because this is going to help you secure your Veeam environment. We can see when there were brute force attacks, maybe data destruction, network denial of services, archive collection of data, whatever the case is. This is all going to be at your fingertips for you and the security team. So that's part of the advanced license. Okay. And then from a dashboard perspective, what are we talking about? The reporting side. So maybe we need to do the real-time analytics. We need to see our backup infrastructure, what's failed, what's passed, how many machines are we protecting, how many machines are we replicating, how many machines are unprotected. Let's see how long our backup jobs are running. Let's see by workload types, the backup windows. Let's look at what's failed, what's passed, blah, blah, blah. There is a wealth of information here. You could even go, if I go back to my dashboard, maybe I want to look at my capacity planning for my vSphere environment. Maybe I need to see the resources, CPU resources, available resources. Maybe we want to go in deeper and run reports on capacity planning. So we could even start running reports. So we could say, maybe I want to look at my Veeam jobs. So let's say Veeam virtual machine backup jobs. So we could look at virtual machine performance even, just to show you guys what that's about. But maybe I need to look at a backup job and I need to pull a report. So let's call it backup job. And maybe I'm just taking tape backup just to show you as well. We can run these reports, or what we can do is, and you'll see there's hundreds of these reports. Maybe I need to do a backup. What was it called? Sorry, I haven't been in this in a while. Maybe I want to see my backups on my repository just to show you what this looks like. So I can do a preview and we can look at all of the analytics. It's going to pull up now. And in the meantime, what I want to do is I want to download the PDF. So I can look at the report. This can be scheduled and sent every morning, every day, whatever the case is. So we can look at our top repositories. We can look at the virtual machines being backed up, et cetera, but we want a detailed report, right? So I'm going to wait for that to generate, but maybe I want to use AI. And I can also ask natural language questions. So, okay, before we go to AI, let's just open up the document. So I'm not jumping too much. So let's open up the file. This is what the file will look like. You can have your own logo as a company on here. And immediately it will tell me I've got 41 repositories. Use space is 7 terabytes. How many machines are stored? So we've got 170 virtual machines, we've got computers, we've got some NAS, etc. stored there. And then we can drill into it. So as we go along, it's going to tell us for each repository, maybe my S3, maybe my data domain, what's the capacity, what's the free space, how many virtual machines have we backed up, etc., etc. So detailed reports, and there's hundreds of types of reports that you can pull. But then also, when we talk about, and let's go back to Veeam 1, the AI part. So again, show me all of my failed backup jobs, as an example. You can ask natural language questions, and Veeam AI will help you. Veeam Intelligence will help you and show you information about maybe which machines have failed, which machines aren't protected, whatever it is. So you can use reporting mechanism, you can use real-time monitoring, and you can use AI as well. Right. So guys, I know we're running over. I'm going to stop it here while it's continuing. Is there I see one of the questions Eric asked is, in which way does Veeam support the 4-3-2-1 backup rule? Okay, so Veeam calls it the 3-2-1-1 rule, and basically it is, the 3 means it's a backup of your, it's your production virtual machine. We do a backup of the virtual machine. We do a copy of the backup stored on 2 different types of media. It could be a data domain, it could be a NAS box, it could be tape, but it's got to be on 2 different media, and one must be offsite. So from a Veeam perspective, it's very easy for us to follow that. We actually created the 3-2-1 rule. I'm not sure where the 4 comes in. We call it the 3-2-1-1 rule. But absolutely, that's our mantra. So look, you can have 4 copies. It's a bit excessive, but from a Veeam perspective, you can have as many copies of your backups as you want. So we can have, let's say you're sending a backup to on-premise in production environment, call it a data domain. You can send a copy to DR, okay, to a secondary data domain. You can then also send another copy to a NAS box in that same DR, and maybe you can send a copy to Veeam Vault, or maybe you can send it to Azure Blob Storage. Okay, so 4 copies. To us, it's just a backup job. It's a backup copy job, and it's just a repetition of the backup copies to get to your 4 copies. No, there's no extra licenses. So the Veeam license, we don't care. We don't go according to fronting capacity when it comes to workloads. It's only when we're backing up NAS. So if you've got 10 terabytes of NAS storage, then we look at capacity. But when we talk virtual machines, physical servers, that licensing, if I've got one virtual machine with a SQL database and I do a backup, I do 4 copies of the backups, and I do a replication job on top of that, it's still just 1 license. Okay, so those are features. We don't charge extra licensing for capacity when it comes to those kinds of workloads. Okay, so just for everybody to see, you can see obviously my file backup jobs. It shows me which virtual machines have failed, gives me my last run, it gives me my duration, what the average time was, and it's the status, and I can download that data. Okay, so that's just to show you how Veeam Intelligence works.